Bill Dance is every fisherman's buddy.
You know, one of those guys, that original crew that really birthed the whole thing for the Bassmasters was Bill Dance.
He had an amazing record in the early years of bass.
Look at this guy. He dresses well, he looks good, he talks good.
I'm grateful. I'm deeply grateful.
Bill Dance was our first superstar.
Bill Dance was fun to watch.
He's an overgrown kid, and people see him with these bloopers and stumbling around. That is Bill.
Bass fishing. Bill Dance is bass fishing.
He's an example of a hero, of a folk hero.
Bill Dance was raised in Lynchburg, Tennessee. There, his grandfather and father taught young Bill to fish in Mulberry Creek. His love of fishing grew from there, and by the 1960s, he was an avid competitive tournament angler. Around this time, two men whom Bill Dance would meet would shape his fishing career. One was two-time Fishing World Series champion Glenn Andrews.
Probably the best bass fisherman I'd ever met in my life. That way even today. A fellow by the name of Glenn Andrews, who I had met in Memphis at a boat show.
He thought every bass that lived in 2 foot of water and had a cypress knee sitting on each side of it. That's all he knew about bass fishing.
Dance was primarily a shallow water fisherman, but under the tutelage of Glenn Andrews, his knowledge broadened.
I was experiencing something I had never experienced in my life. I'm catching fish in deep water, and I'm starting to think, what it's going to be like in the future. You know, I'm learning something completely new that I can apply to my fishing. I mean, this is amazing.
The second person who would change the trajectory of Bill Dance's fishing career was Ray Scott. In 1967, Scott envisioned holding the first B.A.S.S. event on Beaver Lake in Arkansas. Scott recruited Glenn Andrews to create the rules for this new event. Andrews invited Dance to stay at his home in Rogers for the tournament, but a case of nerves the night before the competition almost derailed his chances.
I walked back to the room the night before the tournament was open, and he'd packed his bag up. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, I'm too nervous for these. I'm going back to Memphis. Now, Bill Dance doesn't have a stutter problem. He can sure drum up one if he needs it. I picked up his bag and I unzipped it, and I dumped all of his clothes out on the bed, and I threw the bag between the wall and the bed, and I turned around and put my finger about that far from his nose. And I said, "Now, what are you going to do? Go crawling back to Memphis? What are you going to tell Diane? You didn't even try to win your $100? I said, "Bill, there's not anything to be nervous about." I said, "If you do half what I told you to do, you win your $100 back and leave." I said, "You got 3 days to do what you love to do, is to fish." I said, "Now what?" He said, "Well, I guess I'll fish."
Dance would fish the tournament, leading it for the first 2 days and ending the contest finishing second and winning $1,000. That podium finish launched Dance's tournament career, as the young angler from Memphis, Tennessee was well on his way to becoming the first superstar of this new sport.
The following year, in '68, I think I won 3 tournaments. I won Ross Barnett, Rayburn, and Smith Lake. And Ray and I became good friends.
What did you attribute to your failure today?
No fish.
I don't believe you can go out there. Listen, you caught 50 bass the first day. Now you tell me how what did you do all day?
One angler who noticed the impact of Dance's success was Rick Clunn. Clunn himself would go on to achieve enormous success in professional fishing, notching 16 Bassmaster tournament wins, taking his first victory in 1973 and his most recent in 2019. Along the way, Clunn became one of only 2 anglers to win 4 Bassmaster Classic titles.
When I started, Bill was still fishing, and Bill was one of Ray's genius moves. I don't know if it was an accident or by real, because Bill changed fishing from a Bubba deal. I like Bubbas. We didn't need that image in fishing, and not completely. Most of us are Bubbas that are in fishing, but we needed, hey, look at this guy. He dresses well, he looks good, he talks good.
I think everybody threw their best fish today, and they went to the best area they, knew. And I think tomorrow that, I think it'll be tougher.
Bill gave us another image in fishing that we badly needed, and Ray recognized it.
Bill Dance, how many pounds you catch?
I crashed and burned.
3 pounds and 9 ounces for Bill Dance.
A perfect person to be one of the public faces of the Bassmasters. He could speak eloquently about it without being preachy.
A man, if he's a good angler, can catch a great many bass. But if he's really civilized, he's going to be that rare thing, an unpreying predator. He's going to release the bulk of his catch, which makes his angling a game of skill that preserves rather than destroys or diminishes the source of his pleasure.
You're watching The Cast, presented by Bass Pro Shops.
By 1973, just 5 years after the first Bass event, Bill Dance had amassed 21 top 10 finishes with 7 wins and the 1970 Angler of the Year title. But one title had eluded the sport's first superstar, the Bassmaster Classic.
The Miller High Life Bassmasters Classic is to bass fishing what the World Series is to baseball. It's a competition among America's best anglers.
After 2 days of fishing the 1973 Bassmaster Classic, Bill Dance and Rayo Breckenridge were locked in a battle for the title.
There's a keen sense of competition between the two leaders, Bill Dance and Rayo Breckenridge. One is fishing deep and the other one moderately shallow, and they're both steadily adding to their already impressive catches. It's not the biggest fish, but the most pounds in the total catch that will take the prize. The consistent capture of mature bass is the true measure of an angler's abilities.
In the closing hours of the final day of competition, a confident Bill Dance felt he needed one kicker fish to snatch his first classic victory.
The film crew pulled up. When they pulled up, I hung a bass around 5 pounds. It was the best fish I'd hung. And I was bringing him in, he jumped out from me. And I doggone it, and I got him down, and he jumped again, and I got him down, I was bringing him up. And the camera guy over here was shooting. He said, let him jump again. And I went, He said, don't pull him in yet. So I let him swim out. So I should never have done that. What the cameraman was wanting him to jump again. But he made a hard pull, and he went out, and he got off about 6 feet from the boat. That was a horrible decision that I made, and I know I did, and I knew when I did it, I should have done it. And they said, oh, he got off. I went on in. I honestly thought I had it won.
Rio, you're leading it going into the day. How was it out there today?
A little slow. I got 7 fish.
What happened to your fish?
They moved on me. I moved out.
Were they in the same place, the ones you caught?
Yes, they was.
Get a lot of big ones?
No, I didn't. They're small fish.
What are the biggest one you got?
I hadn't looked at them that close. A little over 2 pounds, probably.
What do you think a total of them would weigh?
8 or 10 pounds, something like that.
Think they're gonna hold up?
I just hoping they will.
Hope so. Bill Dance, how many did you get? I got a limit. They look like pretty good fish. Hold them up there. Let me look at them. Oh, I don't know how much weight I got, Dred. They were pretty deep, weren't they? Yeah. About 40, 42 feet. Right, Charlie? You caught most of them in the last hour? Better than the better ones, yes. You got a chance. I hope so, Grit. Are you ready? Rayo Breckenridge's catch, 7 bass, 12 pounds, 1 ounce for yesterday's lead. Let's give him a great hand. Rayo from Memphis, Tennessee. Ladies and gentlemen, he has 10 bass, all 10 of them alive, which means that's 10 more ounces
Right now, he's just about 21 or 2 pounds from the lead. Are you ready? Oh, not quite. 18 pounds, 12 ounces. Mighty close, mighty close.
That was a crushing blow because I just knew I had it won. Because I had done everything right except one thing. When that fish was right there, I should have grabbed him. That was a major mistake on my part. I was trying to smile with someone sticking a knife in the middle of my back at the same time. Well, Diane walked over and she caught my hand and she squeezed my hand and she said, "You remember what I told you? Everything happens for a reason. I'm going to tell you something you may not know." You know, Rayo is a farmer. Rayo has had 2 terrible years at farming. You don't know this, but Maryland is going blind. And every penny he can scrape up is going to a hospital that has a great possibility of saving her sight. So this win of this tournament is going to help him tremendously in restoring her sight. And I kind of dropped my head, and I thought right then, this tournament's it's not important anymore. Knowing that feeling, that agony of defeat, just boom, was gone. And a smile on my face, and a smile of victory, to see Rayo over there and look at Marilyn sitting over there. I walked straight to Rayo and I put my arms around him and I congratulated him, and I was so happy to know that he had won that event. I knew that that statement, everything happens for a reason, it had true meaning at that moment. And that winning for Rayo helped Marilyn see again. And so the event turned out to be a perfect win for Bill Dance and a perfect win for Rayo. It turned out the way I would want it to turn out.
You're watching The Cast, presented by Bass Pro Shops.
By the mid-70s, Bill Dance was becoming one of the most successful professional anglers at B.A.S.S.
Introducing Bill Dance of Memphis, Tennessee, bass angler extraordinary. He was the first superstar of professional bass fishing, winning 7 titles in the first 16 tournaments and far outdistancing all the other anglers in total tournament points. He's been Bass Angler of the Year more often than any other man. He was named Bass Angler of the Year again this year.
I'm grateful. I'm deeply grateful to the great people in the Bass Angler Sportsman Society who conduct these fine tournaments, to people like yourselves who compete in these tournaments, and to the people who write about these tournaments. And most of all, I'm grateful to my wife, Diane, who I love and she loves me and lets me fish. Thank you very, very much.
By 1975, Ray Scott's B.A.S.S. organization had grown into the country's premier bass fishing tournament series, with Bill Dance as the face of this new competitive sport. Through this journey, Dance and Scott also became close friends.
Our friendship started out and it just grew and it grew and it grew. We had so many fun things together, fun trips together. We went to Amistad. He was going down there. We were talking about possibly holding a tournament. While we were there, he wanted to fish. Somebody furnished us a boat. We got down there by the dam, and there was buoys that separated the United States border and the Mexican border. And he says, I'm gonna tell you, the big bass are on the Mexican side of those buoys, and just ease over that way. And I said, look up on top of that dam. There's federales. And there was about half a dozen of them, and they've all got guns. He said, just ease over there. And I said, Ray, we ain't supposed to be over there. And he says, oh, they ain't gonna say nothing. I start going over there. And I get probably 15 feet past those buoys, and one of them goes, Andale, andale. And I said, hey, he's telling us to get. He said, they ain't gonna do nothing. They just bluffing. They just bluffing. And I mean, they're right up there, and we're right here. He said, catch one of these big bass. And he says, ease over and we'll give it to him. I said, I ain't giving him nothing. And he says, no, 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 no. You don't want to act like you're scared. Just act like we don't understand them. Well, now, one of them's got his gun up. He said, say they ain't gonna do nothing. You think they're gonna shoot us? Do you really think they're gonna kill us? So I said, I don't want to find out. He kept waving at him and talking to him, and something goes, pow, pow. And he doesn't shoot down, he's shooting in the air. And I said, this fat boy is heading north. And I turned the boat, I went back, I got out of there. But I think he would have, I don't know what would have happened. And you know how he was. He thought he could talk himself out of anything.
You're watching The Cast, presented by Bass Pro Shops.
By 1976, Bill Dance was continuing to ride the momentum as one of the top bass tournament anglers of the time. But along this journey, Dance began suffering anxiety related to fishing in competitive tournaments. His friend, the visionary Ray Scott, offered him some advice.
It got me is the anxiety. I hated that feeling. Ray Scott told me something one day. He said, come over here, let's talk. He said, I want to tell you something. You eat, sleep, and breathe tournaments. That's all you do. You're not thinking about this tournament right now. What you're doing, you're thinking about the next tournament. That's what you're thinking about. Is that not right? And I said, yeah, kind of. But all you're doing, Bill, these tournaments are just a stepping stone for you. You are going to move on to bigger and better things in your life. I don't know what they are, and you don't either. But it'll come to you one of these days. And you're going to find something that's going to be a lot more profitable to you and Diane than tournaments. But the tournaments right now are a stepping stone for you. He said, you don't believe that, do you? And I said, no. He says, well, they are. They are. And he got right at my face. He kept getting closer. They are. And I never forgot that. And it wasn't but just it seems like it was just a hummingbird passing. It was so fast. Diane said, I want to tell you something. These tournaments have opened doors for you that you may not see right now, but you will see. And I said, you know, that's kind of funny you said that because I heard that not long ago from Ray Scott. And both of them were right. And this door, when it closed, another one opened. And when this one closed, there was a bigger one that opened. And it closed, there was a bigger one that opened. And it closed, there was a little bit bigger one and it opened. And they were both right.
Since 1968, Dance had been producing his own television fishing show. After reaching the top of the tournament angling profession with B.A.S.S, Dance decided it was time for something else and decided to put all his efforts into Bill Dance Outdoors.
I went to each one of my sponsors, and every one of them said, well, Bill, if you're going to do it, you need to do it while you're on top, while you're ahead. And I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today had it not been for Ray in giving me the opportunity to compete in those tournaments. So I'm just glad Ray Scott was part of my life. I really am.
Bill Dance Outdoors has been on the air since 1968 and is still being made today.
Got you. Woo! I don't know what's going through your mind, but I know what's going through mine. I'm glad I got you.
And I'm like everybody else that likes to fish. You love Bill Dance. I mean, he's a genuine, fun-loving guy.
Ready, work. God, man, look right. Woo! You think I'm kidding?
He's done so much for our sport, probably the most recognizable person in our sport now, arguably, you know, the most recognizable.
He's got that special personality. If he's here right now, we'd all be gravitating toward Bill Dance. He's just got that personality.
What I admire most about Bill Dance, he makes every single individual that he meets feel good.
Love you too, buddy. Love you too. You got me turning off. Purple orange. You got me purple orange this time.
Bill Dance is every fisherman's buddy.